Not sure how to grow? Then start focusing on this part of your sales funnel today. Hi, my name is Matt from Petovera, and today I want to talk to you about the crystal ball strategy that you should be using right now to optimize your funnel for a higher conversion rate and better overall sales results. So we all know that crystal balls are not a real thing, right? But this strategy that I'm about to tell you about is the next best thing that you can be using to understand where your efforts should be directed as far as what you should be focused on right now in your sales funnel, okay? And I realized this strategy after looking back at 2014, looking at some of the $1 million plus businesses that we've worked with, and kind of measuring the difference in terms of, okay, well, obviously we want to be $1 million plus company ourselves. What best practices are we not using right now? And where should our focus actually be? Where is that bottleneck? And that's really where the strategy came from asking that question of, where is the biggest leak in our funnel right now? So I call this the bottleneck sales funnel strategy, right? And the idea is that if you imagine an actual physical funnel as one that's pictured on the screen right now, you're pouring some liquid into it and it's leaking. The bottleneck sales funnel strategy is all about understanding, well, where is that biggest leak? Where is the biggest inefficiency? And how can we plug that hole to maximize the amount of conversions we see at the bottom of the funnel, right? That's where your sales happen and where your formal, qualified, active leads are coming in, right? So there's 4 parts to this, or 4 steps. First, you want to make sure that you have a funnel that is actually set up. You want to have at least a general idea of what those metrics are for each stage in your sales funnel. And if you want to know what exactly are those 3 stages that you should have, well, you can divide your sales funnel into an almost infinite number of stages and micro steps, but generally speaking, every business in the world adheres to this simple 3-part model, which is the top where you have demand generation, that might be traffic kind of coming into your website. The second is engagement in the middle of your funnel, engagement and lead generation. This is where people are, when I say leads, I mean passive leads. They might be getting onto your email list, making a small purchase, usually less than $50. And then the bottom is where people become active leads, right? This is where they actively request a consultation, more information. In the case of an e-commerce business where their initial purchase was less than $50, this might be coming back to the site to purchase a more profitable core offer, right? And of course, the bottom is where follow-up and that lead qualification actually occurs. So you want to make sure that you have at least a general sense of what the metrics are for each stage of your sales funnel before you go forward. And you want to make sure that you have that basic funnel set up. Second, you would want to be asking yourself, where is the biggest leak once you have those numbers in front of you? Where is the biggest bottleneck? Is it at the traffic stage? Is it going from traffic into engagement? Is it from engagement into the bottom stage of your sales funnel? Based on those ratios, where should your focus be? Those numbers will actually direct you themselves. And once you've identified that bottleneck, you want to brainstorm, all right, well, what are some of the ways or some of the tactics that we can use to get results? All right, so for example, we could change the colors, we could change the design, we can implement a pop-up, we can have more free incentives for people to get on our list, we could have an additional email marketing segment or email autoresponder that we put people into, right? And as a general rule, especially when whether your business is a small business or a service business or a startup, or if you're an established company with a rather undeveloped online presence, you want to be focused first on making macro changes, right? So you might brainstorm a lot of different ideas, but the ideas that you actually select to implement one at a time to test what is going to move the needle as far as improving and solving that bottleneck, you want to focus on those macro changes instead of micro changes, because macro changes that usually represent bigger changes that apply across your entire funnel. For example, if you're trying to get more traffic to convert onto your email list, a macro change for that would be having an automated pop-up or an exit detection pop-up that's appearing across most or all of the pages on your website, right? So that's an example of a macro change, and you want to focus on those because compared to micro changes, those are more likely to get you significant results when you're just starting out and you're looking to go from, say, 1% to 5%, versus later on, when things are more established, you might already be at 5% and you just want to go to 6%, right? So you got to use micro changes to get to that point. Finally, after you have selected which tactic you want to test to improve this bottleneck, you want to implement it and then wait and measure, okay? And depending on the amount of traffic, typically you're going to wait between 2 to 4 weeks to get a reasonable amount of certainty that the tactic you're using is working or not working. If it's not working, then you remove it and you test something else, right? And you want to be certain, or you want to be careful rather, not to be testing multiple tactics and changes in the same stage of your funnel at any given point, because if you implement a bunch of strategies at once to try to get more, say, email opt-ins, more people from just visiting your site to actually getting on your email list, you're going to see, you're risking rather masking the changes that work compared to the changes that are actually hurting the conversion rate, right? So you want to be patient, you want to measure and test one at a time. All right, so I go into more detail about what's included in each step of the funnel in the article, and we also have a live training webinar called Fix Your Funnel. If you want to check that out, you can go to pedovera.com/webinar-registration. But the last question I want to go over is this. So you might be saying, well, it sounds good, but when should I focus on growing traffic at the top of the funnel, right? Because there's no stage before traffic that indicates the same way that traffic flows into engagement. So you have a ratio there, and engagement flows into the bottom of your funnel, which is where sales and formal leads occur. There's a ratio there, but there's no ratio for traffic because there's no step above it, right? So what do you do in that case? Well, actually, there is an invisible phase or step, and I talk about what that is. It really deals with what the traffic sources are, such as social media, search engines, people coming to your site directly, other websites referring traffic to you, and there's less science to this part of the equation, but you can still get a pretty good idea of when you should be focused on the top of your funnel and how to actually calculate that ratio for comparison purposes. The way that you would do that is you can look at, for example, sign up for Google Webmaster Tools, and you can see the number of impressions you're getting compared to the number of clicks. All right, so that's one ratio. Another ratio might be looking at your social media properties, totaling up how many fans and followers you have, and compare that to the number of people who are actually visiting your site, as shown in Google Analytics, from social media properties. And in the article, I give you a complete breakdown of what the numbers might look like in a situation where it makes sense to focus on that top part of your funnel for traffic and making changes there to optimize it. All right. So thanks a lot for taking the time to listen to this video, for reading the article. You can get more details and more depth on each of these points if you actually go through the text of the article itself. And if you're just starting out, I want to recommend that you download our 11-point perfect sales funnel checklist. It's completely free to download. And this is something that's going to help you even before you start optimizing to make sure you have the best practices in place. So then you're kind of starting more at step 2 or 3 instead of step 0, right? Because you can start optimizing, but why guess when there's already best practices that you should be using, that you should be implementing right now before you even begin this process of asking, well, where's the biggest leak, right? So that checklist will help you with that. And if you know of an uncommon idea, or if you have an uncommon idea that you've successfully tested in the middle or bottom phases of your sales funnel, I'd love to hear about it, and I'm sure the rest of the audience would love to hear about it as well. So please leave a comment below, and thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the comments.